future. But he did, and I think he lasted about a week and a half.
Let me just start by saying that the information that we bring to you is according to reports. So we're bringing to you news that you hear, that anyone can find all online, but trying to dissect it a little bit more than normal. We have no plans and no real concern about being ITKs. It doesn't interest us. It's just bringing you the West Ham news because we search for it daily and try and bring to you as much content as we can. And the main issue today is we are receiving a major injury update. Now, it's an interesting injury update and a few things we need to take into consideration regarding some of the injuries that we've got. So let's go with the first piece of news, and that is about Kurt Zouma. Now, we did see Kurt Zouma against Everton pull up with an injury. However, he did play on and looked like he did recover. In actual fact, he looked like he more than recovered. He looked like the colossal defender that we know he is capable of being. Him, Ogbonna, and Agerd absolutely dominated back in the defence. And after he did pull up, in what did look like a strain more than like a knee concern, initially we all thought, bang, Zuma's gone, that's him injured again, and it looks pretty serious. But he played on and he did really well, especially in the second half. He didn't even remotely look like there was a concern. But what's happened from what we understand is that he has gone for a few scans and it looks like there's more of a strain in his leg rather than anything that's connected to his knee. Now, again, this is all unconfirmed reports and we'll never really know until you hear it from the horse's mouth in terms of David Moyes, especially during the press conferences. So we'll get updates on that as time goes by, and we'll keep updating you as we do go along. But the situation with Kurt Zouma is an interesting one because West Ham brought Kurt Zouma in to lead the line from the back, and we've been a little bit unfortunate with the amount of times he's had picked up an injury. I mean, listen, when you watch him play, he looks like he's definitely got a long-term concern issue with his knee. But he seems to just play on. It seems to be that that's part and parcel of the package you get with Kurt Zouma. The package is that he looks like he waddles and he looks like he drags his leg a little bit when he walks, but when he runs and when he defends, it's the last thing you think of. An injury is the last thing you think of. The concern I've got with Kurt Zouma is that can we really focus on building our back line around Kurt Zouma when right now there's always doubts over his knee, there's always doubts over picking up an injury here, there, and everywhere. Now, picking up this injury could be expected for a player that comes back from a reasonably long-term injury. He had a minor operation on his knee and he came back to some form of fitness. But hear me out here. Do we build around players like Kurt Zouma who do have a historic injury concern, or do we look at building beyond the Kurt Zoumas? I'm not saying thanking Kurt Zouma and saying see you later, mate. I'm saying that do we start looking at bringing in someone to partner Agerd? You never say that these players that come in will be injury free. It just doesn't happen. West Ham in particular know that as well. But the issue you've got here is that a player that does have this long-term injury history and has been at West Ham and has picked up a couple of injuries along the way. And now you've got Naif Aguerd, who's been our summer signing. He's phenomenal. He's fantastic. We've been unlucky with injuries with him. And he looks like he's the real deal. So when you're hearing news about West Ham going into the market, are we going to go into the market for a short-term solution, or are you going to go into the market for a long-term solution? Right now, if I was West Ham and I was the scout system, I would be looking at long-term replacement for Kurt Zouma. That should be one of our priorities. David Moyes, if he still is going to be West Ham's manager moving forward, has always stated that he wants four fit centre-backs challenging for that position. Right now, without Kurt Zouma, without Craig Dawson, we've got Agerd and Ogbonna, and that leaves us short. And then bang, we can't talk about the youth players because the one players I thought that stepped up would have been AJ Alessi. He's not there anymore. So we're in a bit of a predicament. It's not the worst situation in the world. It's not ideal. We do have Tilo Kira who can cover in that role, but I don't really want to see him in centre back. It's not his natural position, even though people may say sometimes in some of his career he has played there and he's done all right. But so far, I've not saw enough of him to be able to step into that middle of the park. The only other player in the West Ham team that I would be confident about stepping into that role would be Declan Rice. But that's not going to happen. But what we do need to do with only a few days really to go for the transfer window is you would hope that our scouting system has done the legwork already to identify someone that can come in. And if it means we need to speed up that process and bring them in sooner rather than later, then so be it. Can we rely on the Michael Keanes of the world? Well, did we want to, and did we rely on Craig Dawson? We didn't want to. Did we rely on him? Yes. Did he give us a career? Absolutely. What a fantastic career he gave to West Ham. Cult hero status. So many doubters and proved us wrong. So it's easy for us to turn around and say, I don't want Michael Keanes of the world. But if it's a short-term solution to get us out of the predicament we're in, then so be it. That's what we need to do. The but to that is, though, that if Zouma, and hopefully it's not as long-term, it might not be as long-term, and the situation is not bad in terms of the timing. It's not ideal, but the timing, in terms of picking up an injury when we've got the FA Cup coming up in the week and then the Premier League game comes the following week and the game gets pushed to Monday. So we're playing FA Cup the Monday, then the following Monday we're playing again. So we've got a little bit of time on our sides. But before the next Premier League game, the window will be slammed shut. And we need to make sure if we're going to be looking at recruits, which I believe we are, we need to do business soon. But what I'm talking about is the long-term solution. Am I harsh? Put your comments in, let me know. But for me, definitely need to look at that. We need to build now. Zouma takes priority. Agard takes priority in defence in terms of building something around that. He's phenomenal. He's absolutely phenomenal. But I can't take away from the fact that Zouma's been when he plays, such a servant to the club in terms of what he does at the back line. He's colossal in his defensive style. He takes no shit. He knows what he needs to do to get the job done in defence. And to be fair to West Ham, the one thing we can take as a positive this year is we don't concede as many goals. We're not conceding goals. We're ranked really high up in the Premier League for goals conceded. It's just our issue is putting the ball in the back of the net, and let's hope that part has changed. Which takes me on to the next story. We're starting to hear a little bit of reports, and people are talking about it now. I think it was broke by Sean Wheatston that the news on Max Cornet is a little bit more positive, and we could be seeing him back sooner rather than later. Now, he has been out long-term from a calf strain. I've never known such an injury to take so long, but the issue is reports were saying that he was out seeing specialists and they hadn't seen his condition. Very rare, once in 25 years or whatever it was. It's very rare to see a condition like that. And David Moyes spoke a lot in press conferences saying that, yes, he can be fit, or he might not be fit. We don't know. He could be back this week. He could be back next week. He could be back in a couple of weeks. But we're led to believe that things are starting to be a little bit more positive with regards to Max Cornet. And he's vital. He is vital to our progressive style of football. My word, if we can get 15 games at the end of the season from Max Cornet, I think he's another type of player who's a game changer for West Ham. He bridges the gap between the midfield and the forward line. He likes to take a shot. He was heavily involved in goals at the start of the season, and he wasn't even starting each week. He got a goal chopped off against Chelsea. He won penalties in the Europa Conference League and in the Premier League. He was effective when he was brought on the field. And if he was to come back, I think he walks within reason, once bedded into the team, straight into the team, because he will add value. He'll be like a brand new signing. And the rumours are saying that if Max Cornet comes back, and because he's so close, West Ham aren't going to go out there and now target other players that we were looking at bringing in. A couple of weeks ago, we reported that maybe West Ham were looking at Dan Zouma, but that's the confusion. You hear reports saying West Ham are looking at Dan Zouma, then apparently Dan Zouma speaks to Everton and says, we want assurances that it's not David Moyes that's coming in as manager. What do you believe? What do you not believe? Leave your comments in and let me know your genuine thoughts on what I'm saying. But If Cornet is close to a return, that is a huge boost for West Ham and our forward line. Feed that ball into the likes of Scamacca, who is injured currently, and Danny Ings, who is injured currently, which leads me on to that story, which is the timings of the injuries mean we've got a little bit of time on our side. We've got 2 solid weeks. Scamacca's been out for 3 weeks. We led to believe it was about a month he'd be out. He may be back. Sometimes these players can recover really well and how they take to the rehabilitation. So that's something we need to watch. Obviously, we'll get kept in the loop within reason from what David Moyes says in his press conferences. But also what we need to do is keep an eye on the training videos and seeing when the players are coming back and getting on the grass, etc. We are led to believe that the 2 injuries that both the players have taken on board are not as bad as first feared. So what we could have coming into the Chelsea and Tottenham game is a fit Scamacca, a fit Ings, a fit Cornet, and a fit Zouma. And that would be huge for West Ham's season. But we need to make sure that happens, and it may not. And that's the danger, and that's where we leave ourselves. And do we have enough strong cover in our squad to be able to deal with that? Not in defence. Not in defence, we don't. Because suddenly we find ourselves vulnerable in that area. Dawson's gone. Zouma's injured. We're relying on Ogbonna. But the one saving grace is Agard. We can't deny it. He's a phenomenal footballer, but he can't do it himself. And we need other players to step up at all occasions, 100%. So there's your major injury update. Zouma's currently injured. We just don't know technically for how long. We know it's not connected to his knee. We think it could be reasonably short term, could be out for a couple of weeks or the equivalent of a couple of games for West Ham. Max Cornet could be back sooner rather than later. We'll have to keep an eye on the timescales for that. Scamacca and Ings are expected to be back for potentially the Chelsea-ish game. They always put a timeline on these injuries, but it's all down to how they deal with rehabilitation. Keep an eye on the channel. We'll keep you updated as we go along. Tonight, though, let me explain to you who is coming on our channel, and you will love it. Who remembers this geezer? David Connolly. This is him scoring his wonderful goal against Preston in our first game of the season when we got relegated from the Premier League and we went on to win the game. So David Connolly is going to come on the channel tonight, 9 o'clock. Make sure you join DJ Rossi B as he gives a live interview to none other than David Connolly. So get yourselves involved on the channel at 9 o'clock. I will be back myself around about 5 o'clock with the Hammers headlines. Of course, there's going to be regular updates, so don't worry about that. You are watching in the morning, good morning. If you're watching in the afternoon, enjoy your lunch. If you're watching in the evening, have a good dinner. We'll see you soon. Come on, you Irons.
Thank you.